to react to it.
Well, that east corridor is getting some pretty heavy loads put on it by manufacturing.
Yes, it is.
If we're not able to use additional engines because we don't have the gas coming in to the plant, is this affected by that at all?
No.
Like, so basically, we're still running on the same two engines.
Right.
And doing this adds more.
We're either gonna be running off engines at one time or another, or we're gonna be running off sunflower off the 34.5 coming into work. And all those feed into these breakers, which distribute it out through the city.
Yeah, no matter what the load's coming from, it has to go through there.
Yeah, it has to go through there and be distributed, so. That's kind of where we're at.
Because now it's gonna turn to where the south end of town is gonna get a lot more power eventually.
Well, we have a big area out there, but a lot of that is in the floodplain. And I don't know how much of it would be developed, because farmers own it, but it's still our territory. If something goes in there, we would want to at least be able to feed it.
Along what Matt just asked you, and this is a different deal, with this gas thing, does that affect us all year long?
Well, it would if we had to run the engines.
But why is the gas company not mandated to furnish us all the gas we need? I don't understand where we should have to build a $700,000 gas line.
Well, I don't either, but I'm not part of the gas
I mean, if
company.
somebody needs electricity, we don't expect them to build it themselves, do we?
Well, in some places we expect
Well, if they're out of the
to pay.
city limits.
Yeah,
I don't understand that. I just,
well, I don't either, but I don't really know that much about the gas company.
Glenn, is there anything in their franchise about?
It doesn't specifically say anything like that. City attorney and I have looked at that here since they brought that up a few months ago. I mean, they're not violating their franchise agreement at all. And what the issue seems to be is not the amount of gas, but the pressure. When everybody's using it, say this time of the year, gets, everybody's using their gas heaters, the pressure will drop. So what they've done is limit the amount at the plant that we could take to keep the pressure in the town at normal levels. Because if we were running 5 engines at once and everybody's using their heat, the gas pressure in town would drop. So, and it has happened, we have done that, so I see what they're talking about, but it does not happen every day.
But normally this time of year, we don't need that.
No, but it's about 3 or 4 years ago, and this is where this came up, we did run with 5 engines, when the day it was probably about 5.
But in the summer, are we able to get all the gas?
No, we're limited really to running 2 engines right now. Now, we can run on diesel since we have dual fuel, so if we are called upon by our power pool, which has happened this year, we ran on diesel for a few days. We don't like it, they don't like it because they got to pay more for it, that power then. So it increases their price when they call on that. Or if we needed to run it for our own purposes, we could run it 24 hours a day like we did on diesel as well as natural
So
gas.
is there any trade-off if we decide to build a gas line? or-
Well, the only would be the price of natural gas over a certain amount of period versus the price of diesel, and we would be paying that cost versus running for the power pool. And I have no idea, a payback over 10 years, what those prices would be, how much our demand would be versus the power pool versus, there's really no way to predict that. That's a dilemma we have. We don't know what our usage is gonna be and what the price of those commodities will be going forward for the next 10, 20 years, whatever that
But
would
if
be.
we adjust that in what we charge the citizens, right?
That's the only way you could pay for it. That's the
But I
only way.
mean now, if our price of fuel, if we have to.
We do have a fuel adjustment clause in there, yes, correct, that's what happens. So, yeah, we don't take a loss because of that, that's passed along. So we don't gain, we don't lose, it's a break even for us where that price, and that's been in existence for a long period of time. So that's why we protect ourselves against the swings in the price of gas or diesel in this case. So we can run the plant, we can run all of our engines, we just have to make a choice, to run on what fuel. But now, right now, we're gonna run 2 on natural gas.
That I'd like to see us address, and who knows what's gonna happen with who's in the city limits and who's not, but I visited with Ronnie, and I know, like Sunfire knows, they have to pay extra for the equipment we put in and everything else. but we have to maintain the output to supply them. And are we recouping the money it costs us to have the added capacity to supply them electricity?
Well, we do have demand rates, and I don't know where they fall within that, so that's something.
That might be a good look, something to check into,
So they're part of that.
because most of us don't get anything free.
Right.
Okay. Thanks, Lee.
There's one thing I gotta ask you, Ron, before you go. You remember you break down here at the lake plant,
Yes, on that transformer where
Yeah.
the wires were down.
and it was just temporary fixed. Is it fixed
Yes, it's fixed permanently now.
permanently? Okay, that's all I know.
Glenn, I have a question, back on the fuel line, from the natural gas. That's not regulated by the Kansas Corporation Commission at all, that they can just all of a sudden drop you?
I don't believe that. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever tried. They've done this with other cities, I know that. So I believe they're within their rights. They are regulated by the Corporation Commission, we're not. But I believe they can.
But wouldn't they fall under that?
They do.
They're supplying us as a customer?
Right. I don't know if that's something the Corporation Commission actually then gets into as far as, you know, it's the pressure of the system that's the issue. So I don't know if they get down to that sort of level of regulation.
I'm just kind of curious, you always hear that.
Do you
KCC
run
gets
them
involved.
engines all the time?
No, I mean, we run them in emergencies, when we need them, if there was a heavy load in the summertime. Most likely what we do now is we run for the power pool, so it's somebody outside. And typically it's been because Holcomb plant has been down, or Jeffrey Energy Center's down. So we're feeding people outside the city probably most of the time we run the plant, which is the opposite of what we were doing, say, 10 years ago. When we were running, 30 years ago, we were running almost exclusively for us here in the city. Most of us now, the power pool calls that we need 10 megawatts or 11, whatever it is, we turn around and run for them. So we're feeding the entire system in North Central Kansas, what we're doing. That's typically the way we use our plant right now. And then we get
In other words,
reimbursed.
most of the time, if they weren't down, and most of the time at this, this, well, this month on, 9 times out of 10, you wouldn't be running.
We wouldn't be running, yeah, unless there's an emergency. That's what usually happens. So we're more likely to
How
run.
many
the summer.
hours? We can't.
It varies. I mean, what sometimes happens is during the winter time, people are short of electricity, and so they'll call me now. I mean, it's pretty much unpredictable.
That'd be a good time to have a school engine.
Oh, yeah, that's when we get most of our type of work like that done. You know, the best way to learn how to do this is to run the plant, though, so, yeah. So that's where we're at.
That wouldn't take anybody away from anything.
No, it wouldn't. Yeah. I wish I had a better solution for the gas line, really, the pressure situation. We're still working on different options, see what we can do.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the code codification review. Chris?
Krista, sorry, before we get started, last time we did this, we were on the beverage section and issue of Sunday liquor sales came up. If the council does want to address that issue and if we want to time it right with the spring election, the meeting to vote on that would be January, first meeting in January, which I think is the 7th, I believe. The reason for that is if there is a petition and a need for a vote, it could then be held at the same time as the spring election. So, just wanted to let you guys know, I know there may be some business owners that may want to talk to you guys maybe the next meeting about that, but it would be January 7th.
You mean on the multi thing?
Yes,
I think,
Sunday looks
I
good.
think we ought to hold that off for a while.
Sunday 6th, yeah. So, just want to let you know, found that answer out for you.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, we're going to talk about chapters 4, 5, and 6 tonight. Had time to review these, to find the billing code. This is the first one we'll look at. All you're looking at here really is a reflection of the adopted ordinance and amendments to the code. Otherwise, you got everything?
If we go back, Again, we're talking about COVID. I know that there was another dog bite situation
Right.
last week.
Yes.
What all has been done on that?
Waiting for the police report to come in, and the guy will be cited.
That's our.
Have to appear in court, and the dog has to be removed from the city.
Okay, what kind of a dog was it?
Pit bull, I understand.
You not seen it yet?
No,
Yeah.
well, it had been impounded, but it was already released because it was current on 3 shots.
No. But
What's
we
the penalty for
have to hire
having a
them
pit
to.
bull in town?
Well, there's a fine, of course, a bite is an automatic fine of $100, and then, dog is not permitted, it's probably not $100. Court costs is $75.
So are we gonna go, has that dog been retrieved then from them, since it's
It was
not
released,
supposed
the
to?
pound released back to the owner.
Okay, but we know it's back to the owner, and they're not supposed to have it, so have we gone and got it?
I have not, just found out about the,
So we'll be retrieving that dog, so it's not gonna be there?
well, I don't have a place to go with it. I just found it, he's gonna have to go to my house.
I know.
But the thing about it,
Well, I mean,
yeah, that goes back to the, you know, it puts you in a tough spot, but if it's, you know, we know it's a problem, we've gotta do something, you know?
That dog should be impounded somewhere.
Yeah.
Right
I
now.
mean, because it's not supposed to be in the city limits.
You got any jail cells up there?
I mean, up ones.
There's a veterinarian,
The veterinarian runs his own business out there.
well, I understand that.
I mean, that's not,
Their problem.
that's not his responsibility.
No.
That's our responsibility.
It is.
And if, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that pit bull shouldn't have been in town,
I agree.
you know? And as far as I'm concerned, that pit bull shouldn't have been released back to the owner because it's still in town.
That's the one thing.
I mean, I don't
I
understand
know
why
it's not
we have
the-
these if we're not gonna do anything
Not
about
the
it.
vet's problem, but he
He should
should
be
not
forwarded.
release that dog knowing that it's illegal to own it. I think
I'll let you
that,
have that discussion with him.
well, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I mean, it's an illegal dog. And it's, you
Well,
know.
a few months ago, you know, we had a man in here asking if he could keep his pit bull, and we said no, and he moved to Jamestown, took his dog to Jamestown.
Well, if nothing else, Chris, it should be released only to you or somebody in authority. I mean, because you're putting the dog back on the street, that's like the police saying, well, we're gonna turn this guy loose because we don't have any place to put him, you know.
Can have Dr. Luke's cooperation on it.
We can't regulate his business. He's not
But we could surely find someplace to put that dog.
Well, and that was right there during the holiday season.
It's on Friday.
Doesn't he have room now? Can we go get the dog and get it back out of there? And I think we have a
Because it's the
responsibility.
I'll look
of
into
the
that
owner.
more, yes.
Because doesn't it say in here, something about that any cost related to something like that will be passed back to the owner of the dog?
Yes.
So,
Oh, yeah, they'll pay for that, and the restitution goes along with that, or whatever, but,
Luke's got a paying customer. as long as
I
Does
mean,
he have
to
room?
my- I mean, if we've gotta do
Sorry?
something else
Does
with
he
it.
have room now?
I don't know. I don't know.
I think he might since the holidays.
Well, yeah, we got another holiday coming up.
Yeah, but at the same time, we gotta do something, you know, and-
Okay.
because it's not fair to people who's walking around that area to be bitten by a pit bull of all things.
Oh, but
And I know it's
it-
something we can't control, because a lot of times we don't know this until it happens, but
I
it's
mean,
happened, now we gotta get on top of it.
I mean, I would presume that the dog hadn't been licensed.
No. Couldn't.
You're right, guys.
There's a lot more in town than what people
Well,
think.
you know, we could stiffen the ordinance and say, if you keep bringing this dog back into town, the third strike you're out, the dog gets euthanized.
But I'm getting, what happens if some child from
Yeah.
St. John's
Yeah.
Elementary School goes walking by and that pit bull gets loose?
Right, yeah, I'm saying,
And I mean,
I'm saying we
to me,
keep the
third-
codes like they are, and
Yeah.
if he keeps bringing it back, eventually we take
I
that
mean,
dog.
I would not wanna be
There
the
shouldn't
one
be
to say,
that.
well, we gave you a 3 strikes, you're out rule. Well,
Especially
What happens if the dog gets 3
I
strikes?
know.
euthanize it, because they keep bringing it back. So you give the dog a chance to move on to another town and
Well,
someone
you do
else's
that the
ownership.
first time it
No,
goes
no,
out,
you
because
give
it's not
the
supposed to
owner
be
a
there.
chance to move the dog on, it ain't the dog's fault.
But, no, it's his property.
That's right.
And he can do with his dog what he wants. We're not saying he can't. I'm saying that dog is not allowed in our city limits by code. So if you show that you're just holding the city in contempt by bringing the dog back, we take the dog and euthanize it after.
What do you mean euthanize?
Euthanize means killing it.
Put it down.
You'd kill a dog because the owner kept bringing the dog back. The dog has no choice on where he lives.
Now you're getting into breed,
Really? Think about it. You want to kill a dog because the owner keeps bringing it back. Well,
how else
How else you gonna control
you
it?
gonna control this?
ship them out of the country.
I mean, I think we were pretty
It's not-
fortunate this time. We
There's
may
no-
not be fortunate next.
No, what I'm saying is you're going to go out and kill a dog because it's owner.
If the,
Sometimes
no,
you
you
have
give
to.
the owner, like I said, that's where the 3 strikes,
I-
you give
I
the
don't
owner
agree with that.
the knowledge, hey, if you do this again, we're gonna kill your dog.
Well, the thing, it shouldn't happen again because it's not supposed to be there to begin
Exactly.
with, so that you don't give them 3 strikes. And you're not supposed to have the dog, but we're gonna give you 3 strikes, I mean, the dog has to come out, in my opinion, because it's not supposed to be there to begin with. And
I agree the dog ain't supposed to be there. Hey, dog, come back because your master told you to, and then we kill it.
Well,
That's what you're
Well,
saying.
You gotta
It
find
ought to
the
be
big
the
money.
owner's responsibility that he's told that the dog needs to be out of the city limits.
Find the
and
big
find it
money
at home.
that
Yes.
money owns its pocket.
Well, I think we should have an ordinance that says, we find this dog, it's impounded right now, and you ain't getting it back unless you're going out of town.
Chris, what did we do here a couple years ago? We had trouble with them. Weren't them dogs shipped out?
Oh, the owners were told to get them out of the city limits.
And weren't they shipped up to Nebraska or whatever?
I have no
Because
idea.
there's a pair of them. I remember
Yeah,
that.
I have no idea.
But they should not go back to the owner unless they're on their way out of town. I mean, that dog is illegal. But
Well, there's two ordinances been broke. It should not be a pit bull in city limits and a dog bites a person. There's 2 ordinances right
And
there.
third, it's not tagged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got time, you want to get that?
No, go ahead, Rick.
Well, Chris, if you need help enforcing that, I think you've got to go ahead right here.
I think we're that serious about pit bull.
Is that to say we're getting?
I say there's no second chance. You got a pit bull in this town.
I mean, that's the ordinance.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be.
Period. I mean, if you find one, I'd say you pick it up and it don't go back. Tell people if you're getting fined for having it. And you're not getting it back until you're on your way out of city limits.
Right.
You know, that's, I think that would be enforced here, big time.
Okay. Thanks, Rick.
It did give you all the documents on the building code, obviously, there's a stack of them, not that deep. Right, so the commercial building code, residential code, the electrical, national electrical code, so there's a whole slug of them there. This section pertains to. When we adopted this, we did it through a building advisory board. We had created a building advisory board to consider new building codes. And that's probably the best way to handle this. The codes we have now are 10 years old. So it's time to start thinking about adopting the next set of codes, probably the 2012 code. We'll probably start doing that sometime in the next year for adoption, 2015.
Do you go close to the national building code?
There are no national building codes any longer. Uniform building codes and national building codes are all gone. They were all consolidated into the international building codes. The only other one I know about that's different from the international codes, there's 2 of them. The National Electrical Code it's actually produced by the National Firefighters, and the Plumbing Code, the UPC, is still in existence. And some jurisdictions still adopt the UPC rather than the IPC, International Plumbing Code. So, other than that, international building codes are the only ones available to us now. The because of the new products and technologies, we probably ought to stay on top of these a little more often than every 15 or 20 years, which is the experience in the past.
I'd just like to say, you might be surprised to hear this, but I took this by a contractor, and he said he thought you've been doing a great job.
It took a while. When we first did this, the first time contractors locally had been subject to building inspections. And there were some ruffled feathers about that early on. But for years now, we've had a good rapport. We get along well. They've adjusted, I've adjusted. But like I said, at this time, we get a little tighter.
The concern that was raised to me was, as this contractor understood the codes were fine. He's just concerned that when you leave, there were several codes that were up to interpretation of the building inspector.
Mhm.
And the concern was, the next person that takes your position, will they have the same, the same interpretations? And that was the fear that one of them had.
Well, I plan to clone myself, so that won't be.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, and then that brought into the second thing, he was saying,
that's a
the contractors around town, would probably benefit from having an educational seminar as far as about the codes.
Well, and we do. There's no one organization to go to get trained up on this. Kansas City, Johnson County does an excellent job. They put on seminars twice a year, conferences for training. And they do that because they require their contractors out there to be licensed. So as part of that licensing process, everyone has to get so many hours of education every year on codes and building procedures, techniques. So, and I've availed myself of that about as often as I could for years.
Have you made that information available to local contractors if they wanted to bone up on codes?
Yeah, I started that years ago and nobody was interested. No. I was the only one that's required to be certified, so, yeah, they don't want to spend the time and the money to do something like that if they don't have to.
Right.
And the contractors out here are all good, they really are. They don't know the codes as well. They don't study the codes like I do. So that's where it's been a pretty good marriage, that we've worked pretty well together and shared some information, so it's working. Within this code, within this section, that is this chapter, we're also going to run into the, where is it? Dangerous and unfit structures.
What section is that?
That's page 411, Article 10 in the same chapter. Now, there really isn't anything in here that I've seen that I would bring your attention. There's an administrative glitch, there's a typo there that needs fixed. But procedurally, I don't have a problem with what's going on here, unless you folks see something different here. Statute actually spells out a procedure we have to follow on that, so.
Chris, there's a typo in 4:10:05. There's also a typo in 4:10:12.
Okay.
It refers to section 4:5:11, which doesn't
Right.
exist, so we'll fix that as well.
Okay.
I believe it should say 10:11 instead of 5:11.
I think so. Any issues, any questions on unfit structures? I can start going after those too as soon as the council lets me.
Gives you some money.
Yep. Yep. All right, on 414, Article 11, antenna dishes. This was in place when we used to see the big, huge satellite dishes out there. Haven't been seeing any of those for a long time. We're not putting those up on houses anymore in front yards. So, I don't know that we're actually ready to get rid of this yet. I don't know, somebody would want to come in here and plop one of these big dishes down for some other reason. I don't know, but it's there for a while. Till the council thinks it's just obsolete and unnecessary, then just gotta leave it in place.
Well, maybe I'll leave it for a while anyway.
Yeah. Doesn't hurt anything just sitting there,
Yeah.
and if we ever need it, it's there to use. So. 5.1, chapter 5, wards.
That's a pretty short chapter.
Yeah, we'll get through this pretty quick.
Well, if we, obviously, we've had elections for a long time, and we've got by without having anything in the code book. I assume that there are rules written somewhere, maybe like the county,
Secretary of State
Secretary
governs,
of State.
governs the county clerk.
that we could maybe just adopt those in here.
Are those wards based on population?
Yes.
And if they are, has our city grown in one
It has.
area more than another to where these would need to be adjusted?
I believe they need to be adjusted, yeah.
Who does that then, the county
Well,
clerk? Does the city attorney do that?
anybody can do it. I mean, you guys would have to adopt new wards. The issue with the county clerk is she has to know that information far in advance of an election, as in, this is too late for the next election. So here in the next year or so, that's definitely something we need to address. But yes, it needs to be based on population, and this is very old.
Well, if you look, the wards are starting to catch up with each other on population. Housing, Ward 4 is getting all that housing built up there. Ward 2 has got all that built out there. Ward 3 has a bunch built out there, and Ward 1 down here is trying to make a place to build more housing, so I think that'll equal out.
We had a census in 2010, so we'd have to use that.
Yeah, you gotta go by the latest census is what you have to do.
That's.
Is there a maximum population that can be in a ward, or is it, what's the reason that the city of Beloit is divided into 4 wards? And can't we, if we wanted to, could we have everybody in one ward called Beloit, since we all vote in the same
Yes,
place anyway?
yeah, you can adopt really any way you want to do that.
And-
You could have 2 wards, no wards, 4 wards. It's really up to the city to determine how they want to, because the state really does, I think, do a great job of letting people at the local level establish home rule and kind of do what you want at the local level within certain guidelines. So, yeah, there are some cities that have no wards at all. There's some that have 3 wards, 4 wards, whatever the preference was way back when they established the city and whatever. And so most of them tend to stick with the tradition and carry on because it's hard to break it once you established it, but they
And
can't.
it's just basically the representation.
That's usually the argument for that. But it tends to be the size of your city. Some of the smaller cities will just say, well, we're not going to have any wards at all. We'll just have positions that are open rather than a ward. And you just run for a position, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. But you can have different size. I mean, obviously we have 9 members. You can have 3, 4, 5, 7. It's really up to the city to decide.
But
what
isn't
board
this
they want.
typical for a city of size 2?
For to have as much as we do, actually, no, we're probably a little larger than, you see some bigger cities who,
Beloit is at 5.
they only have 5, that, so, I mean, it's really up to each city how they want to do it. And there's really no set pattern for it. It's just the traditions that you've had, so some are more comfortable with wards, some are comfortable without it, but.
Well, I had a crazy idea, and my crazy idea was, we have 1 ward that's Beloit, and we have the city, same amount of seats, or maybe lessen it by 1 or 2, or whatever the council would want to do. And everybody that ran for an office, they ran in one thing, and you took the top, each year there'd be 4, except for the off year where the mayor's on there. But for city council, you just take the top 4 during that election, and then, if you didn't make the top 4, you didn't win. Instead of having competitive elections, you get, so that way you don't have to find somebody willing to be a write-in guy when there's no one else in there. So you could have 2 people that are, like, when I ran for office, I had a contested election, and it was pretty close. And if you switch it around, if you got two popular guys running against each other, they could both get on the council, whereas another ward might not have anyone. So there you have two people that really want to serve, being able to serve. Anyway, that's,
What do you mean by popular there?
well, I mean, I got, I want to say like around 180 some votes, and Trent Har got about
I
27
mean, two
votes.
people that are
Yeah,
willing to run.
two people that are willing to run, they're splitting the vote. You know, they've got big camps of people supporting both people, whereas another ward may be running uncontested, or there might not be anybody in that ward that's wanting to run, that then, you know, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but I mean, it has happened. It has happened.